Hello, and welcome everybody to Sonic Talk episode 440. Now, 440, as you may know, is quite a portentous number, I suppose. If we're talking about things to do with tuning, that's the standard Western tuning A. There was something very interesting that I found, actually, because I was researching to see if I could say anything to do with the number 440. The number 440, apparently, there is a radio station in the US. It's called WWV. It broadcasts a 440 hertz signal at 2 minutes past every hour, with WWVH broadcasting the same tone at the first minutes past every hour. It was added in 1936 to aid orchestras tuning their instruments. There you go, fact finders. That's something that you may or may not find interesting. I was going to try and tune it in, but we're a little bit past the hour, so it would have been fairly dull, and just playing a tuning reference would have really kind of spoilt the moment. I want to say thank you, everybody, to joining us. The fulsome chat room, thank you very much. Nice to see lots of people there, and also to our sponsors, Isotope. You will be hearing from them later, where you will find out, A, if you might possibly, and you entered last week, have won Isotope's Ozone 7 mastering, or B, you can enter this week's competition where they're giving away yet another copy. How about that, folks? That's astonishing. Anyway, let's get on to our guests. I'll start with someone we haven't seen for a while. Look who it is. It's Non-Eric from musotalk.de. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good too. You have a very orange-themed set there. There's a big piece of orange and an orange. Is that a tiny terror or a micro terror?
Yeah, tiny terror. Dual terror. Sorry.
Dual terror. Twice the terror in half the size. Got to be very careful with that marketing message, I'd imagine, these days. But
yeah, and then since we're not getting paid.
Oh yeah,
right?
you got to tape it up.
Yeah, we're not getting paid. Sorry, shit. Yeah, we're not getting paid.
It's off. This is what you could have had.
Off.
Non-Eric, of course, is the host of the hugely successful German music technology and recording and all of those things version of Musotalk, where they do their own podcast, German language. So what have you been testing recently, Hans?
I did the last test I did was iSpark for iOS.
Oh, the Arturia thing.
Which is nothing spectacular, a drum machine on an iPad. Wow, whoa! But apparently the Spark LE controller, the small controller, works via USB camera adapter and doesn't need a powered hub to work. So I figured that would be a nice combination to show to my audience, because it's probably the smallest drum computer available right now. Yeah, it's quite slick.
There seems to be a recurring theme, because I know Gaz is finding this. He got an iPad Pro and he's been talking. I don't think Gaz can make it this week. He got flu. He was here yesterday and feeling really rough, and he's gone. But he has left us with a review of the latest pocket operators, which will be going online soon. But he's been exploring the kind of this the reintegration of iPad into workflow. It seems to be getting to a point where it's actually starting to make more sense than it did when it first came out. But perhaps we'll come on to that later. In the meantime, I should introduce the rest of our guests. We'll start over here in the US with Mr. Richard Hilton. Hiltonius.com, amongst various other places. Rich, of course, a Nile Rodgers studio guy and live chic keyboardist amongst his many talents. How are you, Rich?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Had a busy week in the studio?
Yeah, actually I did. Productive and fun.
It's the sort of question that I always ask leading, then I realise you probably can't tell me anything about that particular process, purely because it's because of who you work with and the secrecy that goes around these various projects in the world.
Well, I could talk about technical details about what I do, but that wouldn't really be appropriate to the intro segment.
No, you're probably right. Well, anyway, Rich, it's great to have you. And thank you very much for joining us. And we have, coming up there, he's nearly on camera. There we go, Mr. Marc Tinley, marktinley.co.uk, sound artist and hairstylist, man of many talents. How are you, Mark?
I can't answer that on the grounds that it might incriminate the depressed.
Not so great.
I'm all right today. I'm better than I have been for the last week, but I have I went into a massive depression, I'm
gosh.
sorry to say, which is, I mean, you know, and I'm open about it because I think it's useful to be open about it. But I've been taking something called Go-To Cola, which is like a herb thing, and that's picked me up a bit. So I'm bouncing back. Next week I'll be completely manic, of course. But
well, is that the time that you should be doing most of your creative output, or do you get more creative ideas on the down phase? No, okay, fair enough.
No, I'm not in Morrissey world. I can't even switch the bloody stuff on when I get into the depression phase. I'm more creative when I'm in an up phase. But
well, there's something to look forward to.
So, and it's usually if somebody says, "Hey, I've got a project and I want you to write something for this," that can be quite creative. I discovered Blend. I didn't know about Blend till the other day. I got an email from Audio Bus or something, and it said, "Oh, come and check us out on Blend." So I joined Blend, and then I discovered one of Moby's, or quite a lot of Moby's songs are on Blend as Ableton projects and stems and different things. And you can press a button and you can download the whole thing into your Dropbox, and then you can go and remix.
Oh, cool.
So I started remixing a Moby track, discovered that my backing was so cool that I threw all Moby's bits off.
Like that.
And I kept the new project, and there's loads of competitions on there to win plugins and stuff like that. So it seems like quite good. It's sort of similar to Splice, but maybe it's been around longer and I missed it.
Maybe, yeah, maybe so. We'll have to check that out.
It just works in a really nice way.
What's it called again?
Blend.io.
I think we might have talked about it in the past. Well, I'm glad you could make it, and I'm glad that it was enjoyable. I just want to interject here with
my life purpose.
a brief. You know about the live event that we're doing on the 26th of March, which tickets have sold out. We are aiming to stream. We've done some experiments with how to achieve that, so I'm hoping that's good. But if you wanted to get one of our limited edition T-shirts for the event, this is the one that is available to the general public. This is the shall we say, liquor-themed T-shirt. It's surrounding the event. If you wanted to do that, I will paste the link in the show notes and also in the chat room right now. But anyway, that's another thing. I'm hoping Mark will be coming along to perform, right, Mark?
I am planning to.
Excellent.
I've written about 20 different songs, and I just can't decide what style I'm in because I'm 53 now. So being a punk is a bit kind of off, and being like, "Hey, I'm raving," that feels a bit weird.
Ambient noodling.
I feel like I should be some kind of white lead belly, or something like that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So depressed.
That's a good idea.
I'm sliding my guitar.
Blues. Excellent. That's a great idea.
So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to make it appropriate to Sonic State and to make it synthesized or processed or gnarled up in some way, but I've been having lots of fun coming up with ideas.
That sounds great. Well, let's get on with some topics. This is the first one, and it also has a German twist to it, so it might well suit you.
I was sitting out front of the.
So this is the actual demo of. See if you can guess. This is Mr. Olab. I'm trying to remember what his name is now. This is synthesatory.pl. Let me fast forward it a
down
bit.
Hollywood Boulevard, and she stopped and pulled over and got out of her car. Her and her photographer.
Basically, it's the Virus TI, and I don't know if you've spotted, but Access have decided to reissue or reproduce the Virus TI Darkstar TI2, I believe, on a limited run, whatever that means. They're making it again, basically, and you can buy it. Now, this is kind of interesting because the Virus has been a go-to and really highly thought of DSP synth. In fact, if you look at some of the listings for it, sort of Vintage Synth Explorer, that sort of thing, they say it was kind of the pinnacle of DSP synths. Now, of course, that was in 2009 when it was first produced. So nowadays, it'd be interesting to see. I don't know. It's everywhere. I mean, you see a lot of serious music makers have some kind of Access Virus or Access Virus of some kind in their studios, and they still swear by it. But when you listen to it now, you get some of the sounds that we heard then we'd never heard before out of a synth like that, but now they're so prevalent in soft synth and stuff. Do you think there's a market for this? There must be, otherwise we wouldn't be making it, Hans, right?
I guess they're trying to ride the wave, right?
Yeah. Do you think DSP is the new analog then?
Well, I had this conversation last week in our podcast where I was complaining
we're so
that,
behind the times.
Yes, so behind the times. No, we were discussing analog, the misuse of the term analog by many manufacturers. I think it was regarding Studio One 3.2, where they claim that they have analog distortion in their DAW, which they failed to say analog modeling distortion.
Oh yes, there's that.
So it's I think for a newcomer it might be quite confusing and misleading. There's manufacturers do not like to make that really clear, and I think the TI. Mr. Kemper, he's more into his guitar operation these days, because we haven't seen anything new from the virus, from Access, for many moons.
Do you think it could be a precursor to ramping up some form of production, and we might be seeing a new one coming along after? Because there's no reason why not, I suppose, apart from if you haven't got the R&D resources.
I guess so, because it would be an obvious thing, because they came out with a hardware synthesizer. Okay, DSP, analog modeling, yes, but still in a time when the synthesizer as a hardware device was practically dead. And they were riding a wave, together with the Nord leads and stuff like that. And there was only two, and microwaves. So there was it was a smaller market. And now where we have, synthesizers coming out of my ears and my shirt and everywhere. We have the super booth this month here in Berlin. So it's synthesizers everywhere. And from a business point of view, it just makes sense to, to take part.
Incidentally,
they have the technology, and they just need, to spray a new front panel and give it a new name and add maybe 2 features, and off they go and have a new synthesizer. It's strange that they haven't done it already.
I suppose that is probably more the question. Just for your information, Superbooth Berlin, I think it's the 30th to the 2nd of April, 3rd of April. We will be there. We're going with the team, and I'm sure I think Hans will be there at some point as well. Music Talks DE. So just put that in your diary. Rich, did the virus make it over to the States in such a big way? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of kind of early trance musicians and whatever film score people. I mean, because there's some of the sounds that you could get straight out of it without all that DSP. You could get a lot of stuff going on in the original TI engine.
Well, I believe they were popular, but I couldn't say exactly how popular, because I didn't tend to operate in that sort of area that you are describing. So I don't really know what those guys were using, but I do remember it being very fondly thought of, that it sounded great. The sounds that this thing made in the demos were very familiar. And as Hans said, why not?
Yeah, I suppose just a quick recap of that. Actually, we're a maximum of 192 parallel effects, which I guess you might need in some weird world somewhere. And you could imagine actually programming 192 effects for a patch. That's going to 2 independent multimode filters, analog filter models. I mean, it's all about the modeling, but their modeling was considered to be amongst the finest at the time. And I may be, and also the TI has another interesting thing, which is the USB integration, which allows you to stream in and out individual voices, multiple outputs. I'm curious to know as to how that driver has been updated, because that's going to be the key if that driver still happens. And without wishing to garner a rant on the subjects of drivers out of you, Mark, have you enjoyed the virus sound at all?
Me? I had a free virus sound, I seem to remember, and I think it was around the time I bought Pro Tools 5. I'm almost certain that the virus was a TDM, wasn't it, at some point?
Think so.
Maybe before it became hardware, or around the time that the very early hardware.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
I think all of that
after the hardware,
as a digital.
After the hardware, right?
It was after, was it? I think as a digital synth, all of their all of their synths sound really good. I don't know why that is. Maybe, I mean, I also think the Nords sound really good. It's got to be the Motorola chip, hasn't it? Has it got a Motorola chip in it?
Yeah,
this thing?
56,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, anything that uses that always sounds really good and sounds way better than kind of faking floating point in a PC, I think, or in a Mac.
That's interesting. Do you think it's maths based? Do you think there's an issue with? So are we going to be getting into the old school mathematics? It sounds better than the precise mathematics. That's an interesting concept.
Oh no, I don't.
This could be something that would go viral on the internet, man. You know?
Yeah, but they do though. Don't I mean?
Sound of the 656,000 versus the Spark DSP versus, I think the Pentium. The Pentium 4. That sounded really, really great.
No, it didn't.
With the one voice it could manage. Yeah.
So Hans, you said something about Kemper there. And are you saying that the guy that designed this is now designing the Kemper amps?
It's the same company.
Absolutely. Yeah, same company, same guy. And it's always been one guy.
This man.
Sorry.
I've got this idea, and my idea is to make a profiling synthesizer. And the way you would do that is you would sample a sound, and then you would unveil it and take all the reverb off. And then you would do some kind of Solemnity kind of, like the DNA pitch. It would pull all the different pitches out and work out what the sound was made up of pitch-wise. And then it would start to analyze those and to make... it would reverse convolute the reverb. It would reverse convolute whatever's going on with the pitches, and then it would work out what it thought the best way to create the
the architecture
partials was, and it would make like a whole load of resynthesis partials, and then that means you could and everyone's going like, why would you do that? Because you could just sample it, right? But you can't start pulling the sound around elastically and messing around with all the harmonics elastically in time, like granular. If you could pull different parts of the, like kind of comb filter, but like comb stretch different aspects of the sound and then make the sound like really malleable. I think there's something to be done here. And so you could take the sound of a violin and then you could start messing with, you could find the bridge tone in there and start messing with the bridge tone. Or you could almost make it sound like you were bowing further or closer to the bridge or whatever by doing some
using
clever
the modeling. I see what you're saying. I mean,
we have the intelligence.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
We've got the intelligence to create synthesis sounds that sound like real things. So we just put all that intelligence in a computer, get it to analyze it, and then get it to recreate in the same way I'd sit down and program a synth. I'm sort of waiting for that synth to happen.
I don't know. Non-Eric, do you think that's a lot? I mean, the Kemper stuff has been, I mean, the modelling amplifier and the modelling technology was really cutting edge at the time. It's been around for a while. I don't know how much tweaking they've done to the basic maths of that. Do you think they're cooking something up?
I think, first we need to understand what the Kemper actually does. I mean, Christopher was here when he was, before the Kemper amp was released. And I asked him, can I have a part of the company? I would like to invest because it was the best sounding guitar amp simulation or profiler I've ever heard before. Because what it does is we can get out any plugin now, any guitar plugin, and it will sound okay or great on one sound. But the problem is the dynamics, and what they're doing is actually, I think the guitar sound, Mark, is a lot less complex than the synthesizer sound. So,
I'm sure it is.
And the magic is that most of the sound comes from the amp and the cabinet and the loudspeakers and blah, blah, blah. And what he's been able to do is to actually capture all the dynamics. And that's why it's such a convincing guitar amplification.
Okay, I got you.
Tool. And I guess it will be very, very, it should be possible, but I think the guitar is only a fraction as complex as a good synthesizer sound, and it will be probably right now too hard to do it.
That's interesting.
But I have no idea.
Well, one thing because we did an interview with Mr. Eric Persing from Spectrasonics, and he was saying the thing that's very exciting is, they've got all these great ideas for really interesting new synthesis techniques and all of this resynthesis. They're just waiting for the processors to be able to give you more than one voice, because even though, if you could use, so, if we end up with masses of processing where the encoders can be kind of, effectively lazy, but rapidly developed. So therefore, go, listen to this, it's amazing. Yeah, it uses 4 of my 8 cores or whatever, So I suppose there's the advance in CPU that needs to be made as well.
But who needs new sounds, Nick?
Well, yeah, that's a good question.
Or Rich? I mean, we're living off the cliches, right?
We need the old sounds emulated better.
Oh,
no,
come on.
That was a joke.
Don't.
No, okay, fair enough. Well, there you go. You can pre-order it now. I think it's a couple of thousand, €2,500, something like that. So I guess by the time it gets to the US, it's going to be a little bit more pricey. It always has been, though, because of the import. I don't know if but you can order it now. I'm not sure when it's going to be quite available. There is a buy button on it. I was a bit hesitant to press that buy button. Let me see. If I press the buy button, what happens? Bang.
I owned the Virus B.
There goes your credit card.
€2,350. There we go.
Quite pricey.
But it always has been. I mean, it always has been. It's never not been a premium instrument. It's always been at the upper end. But anyway, you can go to it if you want. Now, what have I done? I've just frozen. It's just crashed my browser. No, there we go. That's all right. Sorted.
Is this for the T1, the one with the wooden end cheeks?
No, this is for the Dark Star TI. I guess it's TI2. Oops, that's me, isn't it?
TI2.
I think it's the TI2.
Oh,
okay. Well, let's have we'll break there and we'll just hear a word from our sponsor. Then we can come back with the competition. Coming right back.
Sounding tracks with the critically acclaimed mastering tools in Ozone and Ozone Advanced. Now, the latest isotope innovations in Ozone 7 bring modern and vintage processing to the forefront of the music production experience. Updated for Ozone 7, Ozone's highly regarded maximizer features a brand new frequency-specific IRC4 algorithm that delivers transparent mixes with less pumping and distortion. Use it to smooth out an unwieldy mix, or tame the kick drum peaks without affecting the vocals. The Dynamic EQ, now in both the advanced and standard versions of Ozone, lives and breathes with your audio, giving you more effective control over your sound without coloring your entire mix. Harness the precision of an equalizer and the musical ballistics of a compressor in one integrated processor. New for Ozone 7, vintage-inspired processing puts nostalgic tone at your fingertips to bring the creative color and character of analog hardware to your digital recordings. Glue your mix together and bring a natural feel to harsh-sounding recordings with the Vintage Limiter. Vintage tape adds the dimension, warmth, and depth of tape saturation to your masters for a timeless sound that suits your creative vision.
Indeed it does. That's the isotope Ozone 7, the kind of pretty much de facto mastering plugin and bus processing. Really, really useful. And if you didn't know, we ran a competition. We run a competition weekly. Thank you very much to Isotope for their continued sponsorship of the show. If you want to check out Ozone 7, isotope.com/ozone will get you access to the free demo. But we asked you last week to tweet the hashtag Essential Audio Tools and Ozone 7 to @sonicstate and @isotope Inc. And we have a winner for last week's competition. The winner is a chap called, or a chapess, I'm not sure, called R_Officina, OFICINA on Twitter. That's their Twitter handle, R_Officina. If you want to get in touch, you will have won Ozone 7, and the Isotope Fairy will give you your copy as soon as you let me know what your email address is. And of course, we do have another competition this week. This week, we're asking you to tweet the hashtag Fine Audio Control, all one word, no spaces, and the hashtag Ozone 7 to @sonicstate and @isotope Inc. And we will pick a winner from the competition entries this week. You have to do it on Twitter. That is one of the things. The other thing that you need to do is there's 140 characters. Use them up. Let's see. Post a picture. Do something. Because I know that Isotope do see all of the tweets, and we certainly look at all of them as well. So remember, we want to enter the competition to win Ozone 7. The hashtag Fine Audio Control and the hashtag Ozone 7 to @sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. Thank you very much. Right. This is an interesting concept. So did you see this? Somebody put a mint TR-808 on eBay for 10,000 UK pounds, boxed. I mean, when you look at the image, I mean, it is a that's the box, isn't it? That's actually, I'm sure there were some other images there I think they may have been removed. Here we go. So there, it is pretty pristine. I'd say that's concourse, if not showroom condition, factory condition. Look, not even thumb the manuals. I mean, quite a find, admittedly. I don't know whether it ever got there because apparently this listed was ended by the seller because there was an error in the listing. I mean, it's hard to imagine any piece of technology like that, apart from maybe, CS80 or Prophet 10 or something worth that much. I know, Rich. I mean, do you think music... I know it's not necessarily the instrument. That looks like purely investment-driven, not the kind of notion that you would go, this is a beautiful instrument. It's more like, look how brilliant... this is so rare. It's to do with rarity rather than musical value, perhaps, right?
Indeed. Much like one would never have believed in the early 70s that the $650 Les Paul they just bought would be worth over $150,000 some years hence.
Yeah, wow.
As much as on a personal level, the notion of spending $17,000 or whatever it actually boils down to buy a brand new TR-808 seems on some level ridiculous. From a collector's point of view and from the point of view of people who have enough money that they don't have to count it.
Yeah.
That's not a bad investment because there's a very good chance that 50 years from now, that thing's going to be worth a pile more than that.
Yep, I suppose that's true. I mean, it would be a question of just hanging on to it and keeping it in the box and putting it in a sealed vault and doing all of those things, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's not. You don't buy it to use it. It's the Lamborghini in the garage with the cover on it.
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's. I bought a microphone because we have a microphone that's like that. It shouldn't be on a stand every day.
Right.
It's too old. It's too valuable. I don't need to use that microphone. So I believe certain things take on that vibe. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to skin the TR-808 cat if you need to as a music production issue anyway. So having one is all romantic and wonderful and everything. But I suspect the person who buys this thing shouldn't use it unless you've really got that much money and you really don't care. But to me, it's going to achieve Mona Lisa status on some level at some point.
That's interesting. The chat room is kind of split on it, but Creation Matrix says if I had millions, I wouldn't think twice. If I'm honest, what a lovely thing to have. Triple JJJ. Oh no! Please don't let music technology become Star Wars toys of the future. That's an interesting concept. What's that we've got here? A rock. Oh yeah, baby. Is that the one? Is that the one with the chorus?
Making me laugh. Euro. Original Rockman.
Let's look at the top surface. It's got. I remember those. They were actually serious tools, weren't they? They were considered serious DI guitar tools for that chorus Strat sound. That was it.
The first one ever, I think.
Is that serial number one as well?
Come with a headset as well.
It's ridiculous.
I think you might be right. So does that mean, Non-Eric, that you are? That's just one of your many collection. The only one you had to hand from your huge vault full of vintage, unsullied synthesizers that you're keeping for your dotage, right?
No. I have no sympathy for the collector idea. In many ways, this is actually something I used myself. And it's still around. That's it. I mean, I've sold a lot of stuff, and funny, this survived. I don't know why I used it.
Was it battery powered, or did it have to have mains as well?
Battery, and Ace, and both.
Right. So I'm wondering what kind of records you were making with the Rocktron. It had a really ghastly overdrive circuit, if I remember correctly. But it was the fact that it was just sort of, wow, this is just astonishing that you can make that sound out of that little thing, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before the days of modeling.
Yeah. Transistor.
Long before. Yeah.
It had a chorus. Did it have a delay as well? I can't remember.
Let me just check. Put on the glasses. And
Rich
take a look.
is nodding. Rich knows. Rich works for a guy who plays a Stratocaster in a disco style. I'm guessing you probably. Let me tell you, is that the secret of Niall's sound?
No, hardly.
Well,
but he had one somewhere at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And here it is. It's got chorus, echo on and off, chorus on and off. That's all. And 3 sounds: distortion, edge, and clean 1 and clean 2. So 4 sounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
And it was really expensive, I seem to remember, wasn't it, as well? It wasn't a cheap
I
item.
remember now.
No?
No.
Ah. Well,
a few
I mean,
hundred.
fewer,
Maybe
yeah.
a couple 300, as they say here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, so Mark, what do you think? Would that be a sort of thing that you'd like to have lying around just for posterity, or for your, for
I've
your
got so much crap lying around for posterity that I think no, actually.
even if it was?
I've got this horrible kind of collector's mentality. I mean, I can't show it to you because it's in a rack down there, but I've got a Powertran MCS1 from like 1983 or 1984, which is a sampler, which can sample one note and it will play it back via MIDI or CV gate. And it sounds truly horrendous, and it's probably worth more than I paid for it now. And I don't know. I would need a very big house to start collecting things, I think.
Okay, here they come.
And then I'd forget I'd got it. Because the other problem is I keep these things, and then I'm digging around in boxes, and I pull things out and go, oh my God, I've still got that. Oh my God, what am I going to do with that? And then I put it back in the box. I might have a nostalgic moment and look on eBay and buy another one of whatever it is as well, and end up with 2 sometimes. I did buy a 4-track cassette recorder the other day, though. I got a really nice Yamaha 4-track cassette recorder that will play back fast and slow.
And everything in between.
4 audio output, so I can use it to transcribe all of my old stuff from the 1980s.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's
hey, maybe
useful.
I could. That would be a twist, wouldn't it? For the gig on the 26th,
Use your
maybe
4-track.
I could have the backing track on cassette.
Wow, now that's something. I can see his Hans seems Eric seems to have. What is that there? Is that a Commodore or an Atari? I can't tell from.
It's my first computer.
You still have it,
From Sir Clive
Sinclair.
Yes.
Oh my Lord.
That's a Spectrum 48K.
Wow.
In a special housing, and this is my first computer.
You still have it. Is that because
Yeah.
you like to go back and work on all of those things just in case? You like to have backwards compatibility with everything you've ever done? Or are you still working on some of the tunes you started on it? Wow.
I had one of them. I had a sampler on mine.
Nice.
Yeah.
I made the sampler on Vero board and had it plugged in the back, and I used to sequence it off an MC202. And
Wow.
different drum samples were on different key ranges, and it was all a bit vague actually. But if I wanted a kick with a hi-hat, I had to sample a kick with the hi-hat on top of it. And if I wanted a hi-hat on the snare, so I had to kind of think about how my pattern was going to go, because it was only monophonic. And you'd have to, oh God, it was a nightmare. You had to really think about balances and everything before you started, and try and pre-guess where you were going to end up.
Well, there were kids today. They just don't know what they don't know. I hesitate to use that. Right. Well, anyway, so you can't. I don't know whether the 808 sold, or whether or not it literally was just you put it up and then maybe it seemed to kind of cause quite a lot of uproar. But it's an interesting idea. I suppose the idea of collectible electronics. I mean, this comes back to the same thing, because look, you might buy it now and you never use it, and then you come to sell it for 20 grand in 20 years time, switch it on, it doesn't work anymore because the electronics have aged so much that it's only cosmetic. Or does that matter?
Yeah, but microphones, which will probably agree, microphones are a great thing. As an investment, I bought a Neumann US-87 AI for 1,500 mark, which was 750 euro, and I think I would get more now.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the thing. Are there? I mean, that's interesting. I mean, you're in Berlin. Are there still kind of little pockets of kind of places where these things can be found in kind of people's cupboards who haven't really kind of realised their worth? I doubt it.
A friend of mine found 2 U-47 in his somewhere in his closet, and he had them refurbished and sold for a couple of €1,000. Yes, but that is already 10 years ago. I think the times are over.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
They have all been found.
All been found
by now.
Okay, well, here's another thing that's this is the in celebration of the Blue Monday. It's quite an interesting. I'll play a little bit of it. I hope it's going to play. This is I actually haven't been able to find anything about this. Is Orkestra Obsolete, and they've done a kind of 1930s style cover using some very unusual instruments. Seems very quiet. I think I'll turn that up. It's actually quite... That's a dulcimer, I believe. Double bass. Out of tune dulcimer by the sound of it. That looks like a pedal organ. I probably shouldn't play all of this because, bizarrely, I think YouTube have been tweaking their copyright algorithms, and things that we've published years ago are suddenly getting kind of copyright notice. In fact, we had a video pulled the other day because it had a bit of Genesis on it, and it's gone. They wouldn't let us keep it. It was like bizarre. Anyway, but that's Orkestra Obsolete. Blue Monday, of course, New Order's classic. It stands up. I don't know if you... well, I won't go to you, Hans, because you probably haven't had a chance to hear this, but did anyone else get a chance to hear this? Rich, did you...
Yes.
I thought it was quite funky, actually. It's like, definitely... The quality of the melody and the parts shone through. A great arrangement, but it was very true to the original. I liked it. What did you think?
As somebody who's not even remotely familiar with the original, I found it quite enjoyable. And for me now, that is the definitive version.
That's quite a funny concept. Brilliant. That because the original Blue Monday was kind of the first ever 12-inch smash, a dance edit smash, I believe.
I may be familiar with it.
Yeah,
but I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun.
It was. I honestly, I cannot find anything. When it says in the notes, the mysterious Orkestra Obsolete, they're not kidding. There is no information about these people anywhere, so I don't know who they are or anything. It's completely random.
Protection program.
Completely, yeah. Well, yeah. What do you think, Mark? You enjoy this? It's quite nice. It's like an acoustic version of dance music.
I don't know what they've done to it. That record is absolutely. It is the definitive kind of switch, especially for me, from punk to I'm going electronic, because I was punk and I got in this goth band and I was like all kind of black spiky Mohicans and no eyebrows and shitloads of makeup and I used to go to a club called Astral Flight, I think. It was in Leicester Square in London, and they used to play that. This was like 1982 or 1983, I think. And the kick drum on the big PA is just like, that kick drum is the kick drum to aspire to, I think. And I'm in two minds always as to whether it's really a Lin or a Oberheim DMX, and
it's a DMX, Mark.
A DMX.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know though. 100%. I don't know though, because
it is. I know.
Or it might be a Simmons SDX, or maybe the Simmons SDX sampled the DMX. But anyway, yeah, okay, I'll go with it's a DMX.
I have insider information, Mark. It's a DMX system.
Definitely it's DMX. Okay.
Yeah, because
but anyway,
a friend of... Yeah, sorry. Didn't want to interrupt you.
You can... well, I was just going to say that it's a bit too dum 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 rolling.
Jonathan Richman.
They're kind of. It's like, what are they doing? It's because it's so straight on the original that it kind of feels a bit weird to me that it's doing that.
Yeah.
But I love that they've almost matched the instruments, and it's like this kind of kind of like, you know, surreal twist.
I like they use the musical saw for some of the lines, which is great.
Don't you think the singer sounds remarkably similar though? Maybe it's the because they're all in masks, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe.
What if it's really New Order?
There's a thought. It doesn't look like Bernard.
Well,
so
maybe
it's a great idea, though. I mean, I'm sure this is something that we see. You know, we see lots of acoustic, unplugged kind of versions of various songs, and something that, you know, what's great about them is for the good songs, you just go, "What a great song!" And that's one of those. Even though it's really mostly an instrumental, you know, really that's where all the melody lies. But you know, it's a DMX, right?
Yeah, because a friend of mine, he worked with them. And they had this. Do you guys remember the Oberheim system? It was a sequencer, drum machine, and the OBX or
OB8.
OB8. Yeah. And a friend of mine, he worked with them, and when they came to Berlin, he lent them his system because he had a duplicate system, and they did the whole track on that.
There it is, right there.
On this one, pre-MIDI.
Pointer Sisters record was done on that thing too.
Yeah, because it's tight as well, isn't it? It's not that sloppy early MIDI timing. It's like dead tight.
Oh, okay. So most of the stuff, at least the dum 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 dum, you know, the basic kind of rhythm track of that is the Oberheim system. Is that what you're saying, Hans?
Yes.
Okay. But then I guess you'd have to do that with. You have to do that with one pass, and then the overdubs for the floaty lines is fine. But you can't then presume. Could that be synced?
So wasn't that a power transcendent?
Could you lay it to tape and then add something else, Rich?
I think FSK tone.
FSK tone, right.
Oh, God.
So right from the beginning of the song each time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's how we pushed rocks uphill back then.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
You know, regarding this sort of acoustic version of the song, it reminds me to some extent of the country band version of Van Halen's "Jump" that David Lee Roth recorded. That is of a similar kind of interpretive value.
I don't know that one.
Boy, it got quiet in here.
Let me just find. I'm just going to grab something else here.
There's been so much tribute stuff going on recently, as I already told you before the show. I was at a David Bowie tribute.
Either is fine.
Concert, and after that I researched it, and I must have listened to at least 50 different interpretation of David Bowie songs, and realizing, God, this is terribly difficult to sing because only a few managed to actually, make that happen. And I found out that the problem is whenever you're on a certain harmony, and before the vocal starts, he always does this kind of strange twist in the harmonies, and then that's always so misleading. Rich,
well,
is it true?
It's the nature of good songwriting, I suppose. Rich.
Well, there's a really terrific video by Rick Wakeman, of all people, who played on some of the early Hunky Dory and perhaps even Spiders. I'm not sure. And he talks about exactly what Hans is saying and gives some really clear illustrations on the piano of where he would come to the end of a section and you expect him to go here, but instead he goes there, and he would show you about what there is, and comes to the end of that section and you think he's going right back to there, but no, he goes someplace else, and it's all just become what we've become accustomed to listening to. But when you look at it from a songwriting perspective, it's really unique and very creative and fascinating.
Well, I think that's the nature of having somebody who's got a different take on the way that things all work. I mean, we did talk quite extensively about the Bowie stuff. Of course, we should mention, actually, while we're on the subject of the deceased, I suppose, that George Martin passed, I think it was yesterday, or certainly in the very not distant past. 90, of course, the man behind a lot. Well, I think I heard on the radio today he made over 700 records, which is a pretty damn good a good going. I don't know what. I mean, if you played them end to end, that would be a considerable amount. So, I mean, some of the stuff that he did was astonishing, and by all accounts, a very charming man as well. I never had the opportunity to be in the same.
1.5 months approximately per album. 90 years old, 700 records divided by.
Wow, really? Well, they're not all albums, though, I suppose, are they? Because he did a lot of novelty records as well. Yeah. Which
he's one of the fifth Beatles.
That's right. That's the thing.
One of the many fifth Beatles there are.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of them, isn't there? There's Epstein was considered to be one, wasn't he? And was it Epstein or not Epstein? One of the. Anyway,
yeah, Brian Epstein was the manager. And
he was considered to be.
Billy Preston was occasionally referred to.
That's right.
And if you believe Bernard Purdie, he was.
But
the truth is,
the shy, retiring, non-self-publicising Bernard Purdie, who is an awesome drummer. But
the truth is, George Martin had a significant influence on the way records have come to be made ever since, both conceptually and in the practice. Well, he had some very good engineers around who contributed to it as well, so it's not all on his shoulders. But between his enormous musical contributions, he used to write orchestrations and things. He wrote the string quartet that basically runs Eleanor Rigby. He was a brilliant person to have chanced upon those four guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
In particular. And he's also had a wonderful career outside of that. But most of my exposure to George Martin is through my experience of Beatle records. And I still remember like it was yesterday, the first time somebody put on Sgt. Pepper's for me, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. It had been nothing like it. It just took everything you'd heard before and took it to a completely different level. And he had significant amounts to do with that, along with his creative approach to those very interesting and amazing four guys.
Absolutely. And not only that, I mean, I didn't know this. I mean, I knew about Air Studios, which he was one of the founders of, but also Montserrat as well, which was one of the first kind of luxury kind of ideas where you would create a studio in a kind of paradise and people would go there. And he did a lot for the citizens of Montserrat, which is a very small island. I think subsequently there was a big volcanic eruption, wasn't there, several years ago, which I think kind of put paid to a lot of that. But a very, very cool. Does anyone? There are a couple of topics left. I'm going to canvass opinions because we can do either one. There's the marble machine or the electromagnetic mics.
Marble machine.
Marble machine. All right, that's easy enough. Let me see. Let me find where that button is. I'm pretty sure I had a button for it. Oh, I do, and here it is. This is mind blowing. Actually, this is the work of. Let me just roll up here. I'm going to hit, yes. Wintergatan, Swedish music collective, all built by this guy in the team. And it's just absolutely mind-boggling. It's so completely pointless, but yet so completely fascinating that it's hard not to be in total awe. Okay, here we go. So this is an entire piece, a piece in its entirety. It's got obviously the Glock and there's a bass guitar there and also drums, as we can hear then. But what's really fascinating about this not only is the music, but also there's a whole bunch of making of videos of how he built this thing, or they built this thing, and that is really fascinating. There he goes, he's playing the bass now. I won't play anymore. I mean, I'm probably busted anyway in that, but this thing went absolutely massive. You got coverage absolutely everywhere. Wintergatan are selling albums and making stuff, but this, I think, has probably gone the biggest I've ever seen anything like this go. I mean, did you must have seen this as well, Hans? I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I did.
It's
very good.
Good marketing, you mean?
Good marketing idea. Yeah.
I wonder what he sold on that. I did try and look to see whether there was stuff you could buy in the store, but there's not actually all that much. I think you can buy the vinyl, you can buy a CD, and you can buy a bag. and various marketing. I suppose there's t-shirts and stuff. I mean, I guess given the millions and millions of people that would have seen that, there's got to be a decent amount of revenue. But it must have taken such a long time, and you have to think
maybe it's just a 3-day rendering. It's VFX.
You think so? It's just no, there's a concept. Would it be quicker? There's a question. Would it be quicker to make that in CGI that looked like you made it, or to make it? I don't know. What do you think, Mark? That's an interesting question. Great idea, though. It's really compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I did Gina found it a few days ago. I think before you sent it to me. In fact, I think I sent it to you, but I guess you probably picked it up somewhere else anyway. I watched it, and I was thinking, this is interesting, when he was winding the handle on and all the marbles were coming down and it was playing all the different things and the drums started playing. And I thought, oh, that's clever. It's playing the drums. When the bass came in, I thought, oh, it's got other instruments laid on top of it. But then when I realized he was actually playing the bass, that was the point where my mind started to unravel, and I was just like, oh my God. I mean, oh my God, he's actually playing that. And then I thought, he spent like whatever it was, 14 months or 18 months making this thing, but he can only play one song with it.
Well, so but it can be reprogrammed.
Oh, it can be reprogrammed.
Yeah,
okay.
Because
that mean he'd have to cut out loads of different wheels? And
no. And this is what's clever. Basically, there are belts that come along. And they've got 5 or 6 lanes in them, and you put pegs in. So the timing is this motion,
okay,
and the notes are this motion. There's a bass, and I think there are 2 or 3 belts. And that's the thing that's really clever. But if you watch after the video, if you watch it on YouTube, it basically comes through to, here's what I did here. And it goes through, and it's really, the whole thing is really, really fascinating. How it's like, okay, and here's how I made this bit. And then this was a problem I was trying to solve. And you just think, wow, that's just really inventive. And that's the thing I really enjoyed about it. I know, Rich, because you saw, who was the guy? Was it the Pat Metheny thing? Or who was there's a guy,
yes,
that does the same.
A few times.
A similar thing.
No, not really. This is more like, this is a purely mechanical musical instrument, hand cranked. Metheny's thing was hydraulic triggers from musical data input. There was a whole different set of
actuators
difficulties involved in that, and he had whole marimbas playing and things, and fake cellos and shit. But this guy, I love this. I just love the passion that would have to drive somebody to want to do this. And it works and sounds great. It must have taken forever to do. It's remarkable. I actually watched not only the video that came along with the original link, but the how they made the thing video. I'm fascinated by this.
And it all, I mean,
a lot.
Exactly, the technology behind it is quite simple. It's like glue and tape and a router and stuff. And that's what I really liked. Sorry, you were just coming in there, Hans.
No, I think we can learn a lot about this because it's how you can draw attention to your music. Maybe trying to do a nice sleek video. Like. Girls in a bikini on a swimming pool and the fast cars and this sort of thing would probably not create that kind of viral marketing for you as an artist. So this is probably a good showcase how you should proceed if you're an upcoming aspiring artist and you want some traction, you want some views, you need to have something that goes viral like this one. And yeah, I mean.
Well, I suppose, OK Go did it, didn't they? So yeah. And
they did it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Well, that's really interesting. No, that is really interesting because I mean, I guess with the if you take that as a kind of thesis, if you like, you say, well, in terms of hip hop and R&B, it was just the extreme sexualization was the kind of extreme nature of the marketing. So you go, God, have you seen that video? It was this, that, or the other. Whereas this is very extreme, but in a completely different direction. So it's kind of, I suppose it's kind of exploring the extremities of our normal everyday stuff. And this very much does that because everybody is just so amazed that somebody would go to those lengths and make that. So I suppose that that's quite an interesting concept in terms of the market.
So is it attractive to you guys because it's so passionate to you, because you believe, oh, it must have been so much work going in there? So it's obviously not music that you're fascinated by. You're most likely not even fascinated by the instrument and the construction, but you're mostly, I think, fascinated by the passion and the conviction of the person who does it, isn't it? No,
maybe so. Mike's Rich, you're muted.
Rich, you're mute.
He's muted.
Both of the last two ideas, the instrument and the passion that brings it about. But I'm mostly interested in things that operate under gravitational principles primarily, and the fact that you can affect timing using gravity. And that actually reminds me, there's an Animusic video that's very much like this, where balls drop onto
I've seen that one. That's right.
Appear to be making all that music, and the fact is he just decided to go for it in physical reality. So it's the fact that you're relying on the mass of the objects and the speed of the acceleration and the distances involved to get the timings right. And it's all of it. It's the design, it's the implementation, and it's the passion that drives all of that interests me. No, the music is actually secondary to me in this case. The fact that it makes music at all is cool to me.
Yeah, I think for me it was just sort of like it's the inventiveness of seeing how he solved this. And I'm just thinking, if he's using gravity all the time, I guess he lets it drop. How does tempo make any difference? Because the time it takes for the ball to drop is the same, but the time it takes for the ball to get to the bit where it drops slows down. And that's that's a bit of a head. I don't know how that works, because he lets it go at the end and it slows down. But
the thing that actuates the part that releases the balls in timing
must be doing
has to be a covered wheel, basically, with a thing on it, with a nipple, if you'll pardon the expression, on it.
That's latency, isn't it? The height is just the latency. It's the latency. But here's the thing that it reminds me of. Is anybody familiar with Caractacus Potts on Chitty Chitty Bang?
I certainly am.
So when he's hushabye mounting the bread or whatever it is, like when he makes the breakfast in the morning and the eggs are going across and the toast and all that different, and he's got all those machines for making the children's breakfast. It reminds me of that.
Yes. Which is the Heath Robinson kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, James Taylor once toured with this enormous wooden contraption that he referred to as his analog drum machine. And it worked on sort of similar principles. He didn't use metal balls falling into things. But it was still a geared motion machine, and things clapping together and such, and it actually played a rhythm that he performed to. And it's this huge,
yes, I remember you talking about that
mechanical device.
Bizarre.
How many trucks did it go in?
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, I wondered that about Methane's Orkestra.
Well, I mean, it's not only that, but you think about touring it. I mean, we all know how some vintage synthesizers don't like being moved and require an awful lot of work. Imagine moving something like that and then trying to make sure it works at the performance you've got at 7 o'clock that evening that you haven't quite, and you've run out of rivets.
Your crew would be skewed, wouldn't it? Instead of having 10 techs and a couple of carpenters, you'd have a couple of techs and 10 carpenters, wouldn't it? And they'd all be standing around scratching their heads.
Yeah, on standby. Well,
I wondered about touring the Orchestrion machine, because when I looked at the videos of the European tour, I think he brought a slightly cut down version of what he toured the northeastern United States with. But apparently every night you'd get there, set it up, and have to repair some percentage of the thing, or make changes so that you weren't using the bits that didn't work that day.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think that's probably a good time to stop. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd just like to plug our T-shirts again. If you can't make the gig, or you'd like to go, these are the ones that are available to the general public. We do have a different colour, which is also alternative. I might put that link in the show notes as well. This is a grey one. I'll put the link in the chat room now, just because I can. We don't sell them.
How child friendly is it going to be?
Child
friendly. A licensed venue? Can I bring a child or not?
Yeah, it's a licensed venue. I'm not going to bring one, and it is licensed. Yeah. And it's
maybe I need to get a babysitter then.
okay.
I just need to pre-think this.
Okay. Well, we can talk about the logistics of that perhaps at another time, but I thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Non-Eric from musictalk.de. Great to see you. Thank you once again. We'll see you in Berlin shortly at the Super Booth, if not before, though I somehow suspect you won't be on the show again so soon. Your time is obviously more valuable than we can possibly tempt you away for.
Jeez.
That wasn't supposed to be a dig, by the way. It's just,
The German complainer.
Worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you, Hans. It's been great to have you aboard. I hope, what have you got coming up on your site then? What should people looking out for?
We will be doing something on Isotopes RX.
Okay.
And we'll be doing something on Studio One 3.2. And we will be trying a new format, maybe, because we've tried to. I would like to talk more about the musical side, because what we're doing is we're taking music and make it technological, So instead of and sometimes it would be nice to come back to the not
music.
Make music more. And make it more emotional and stuff, and talk about musical stuff, because that's mostly, at the end of the day, it makes so much more difference. If you have a good singer, you can have a shitty microphone, but the other way around won't work. So I asked my listeners, my audience, if they would like some feedback on their tracks, and we will try that format in the next couple of weeks. So that people who watch Music Talk can send in their tracks, and my panel will discuss what maybe could be done to improve the music.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Strictly from a musical, but also from a technical point of view. But the tracks that I've heard so far, the problems, they lie in the musical part, not in the technical part, like in 95% of all cases.
Yep, I can understand how that's the case. Well, that sounds like an interesting experiment. It's something we should probably consider doing here as well, but we could talk about that another time. Mark Tinley,
that's
had your hand
That's
up.
exactly the same revelation I had the other day. And it was really because I joined this blend thing that I had that revelation. And I recognized that there's probably 10,000, computer musicians in this country, and they're just churning stuff out. And you go through all these lists and lists of other people's songs and click on spin through them. And I'm just thinking, it's got to the point now where anybody with a little bit of skill can create computer-generated music, and it's not difficult to do. What is hard to do is to generate something with intelligent musical content. And I spent my whole career becoming brilliant at the technology, and now I'm like going, God, I need to learn to write songs. It's like... when do you do the turnaround? What chord do you go to next? How do you shift the mood to lift people in the chorus and all that sort of stuff? I've never bothered with any of that, because I've always gone like, hey, I'm doing something really clever. This is the new sound. Listen to this, incredible drum machine.
Just add a 16th sequence. That'll pick it up. Yep.
And I just sampled that post box over there, and that car screeching to a halt, and that guy trying to start his tractor, and it's no longer new, is it? Anyone can do that. So it's got to be like, listen to that chord going to there, and like feel where that takes you next. And I've got to learn to do that, I suppose.
Yeah,
I think it's really important to remember that music is telling somebody a story, even if it's a techno track. A really sort of club track. It's still, if it's a good one, it will create pictures in your mind, in your vision. You get an emotion, this sort of thing. And that is something we need to focus on and find, what kind of mood am I creating? Is it working? Do I generate interesting pictures in the heads of my listeners? And that can be done in many, many ways. And that's the goal. And it's not the 24-bit, 96 kilohertz master ring.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think I can do that. But before we go, I should probably say goodbye to Rich as well, who's there in sunny Connecticut, where spring is probably beginning to blossom, and A young man's thoughts turn to touring and all such matters. How I hope your week promises all of those great things for you in the future. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Great fun as always.
Right. Okay. Well, that's it once again. I should just mention quickly before we go, if you want to enter the competition to win Isotope's Ozone 7. Oops, that's not the button I need to press. I need to press another button and it's not working. There we go. You need to tweet. This has to be done on Twitter. Tweet the hashtag FineAudioControl, which is one word, and the hashtag Ozone7 to @sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And you will be entered for the competition. Thanks very much to Isotope for the sponsorship. Thanks to our panelists. And thanks to all of you folks in the chat room. It's always good to have you there. That's it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.